You're listening to Almost Famous with Jim Francis Meza, only on LA Talk Radio.
Testing, 1, 2. I am super delighted to have a great show. Today's going to be an epic show. I guarantee you there's going to be something for everyone. I have a great person here with me. I'm going to introduce in a bit. He looks like, he might as well be a basketball player. He's a guy's like towers me, you know. He's amazing. He's a personal friend of mine. He just recently, I think in the last couple of years, we'll hear all about it, but he's been involved in a host of things where he helps out the community. The guy I met some time ago where I think he was working for Zachary Levi, which is amazing, or he was part of this think tank of sorts. He'll tell us all about that, and he runs a football league in one of my old stomping grounds. I mean, the guy's pretty darn impressive. And not to be his name is going to sound synonymous to somebody else, but no, this guy's making his own footprints. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, I ought to just introduce you, man. I can't help it.
Let's do it.
You're just awesome. You're a monolith. You're a freaking awesome cat in my book, brother. You know that. Guys, give it up for Brandon Dean Johnson.
Do I clap too?
You can if you like.
I'll clap at my own name.
It's a synergy thing. Yeah. You know? We give each other, right?
I'll take it.
Energy. I am super delighted to have you here, man. Thanks for making the trek all the way out here. I understand you came from, didn't you come from Georgia all the way down here? You drove down?
Close enough, downtown. So, after hours, LA traffic, it's a whole haul, but, I'll do it for you.
Hey, man, thank you so much. Again, let's put it here.
Mm-hmm.
The last time you and I spoke, we talked about, over the phone, there was, we had a little convo in terms of like where you were, what you were doing, because you're always doing something pretty impressive, which we're going to hear about too. Your nonprofit, your for-profit that you're involved with. I mean, it's quite phenomenal. But we were talking about possibly having you back on my other podcast, because the Jim and James Morning podcast. But prior to that, we had you on the Juicy Divas Confessions of a Limo Driver podcast with yours truly and my co-host Seth. I am dude. How do you like find the time to work doing all this? So let's just back it up to when we started, we went over to a space out in the valley. We won't say where.
Yeah.
But you were working with at Nerd HQ.
Yeah.
Can you kind of tell us what that was about?
So, Nerd HQ was this amazing nerd event that happened every year at San Diego Comic-Con. And it was founded by Zachary Levi, the actor that's been in Shazam, Chuck, all these big time movies. So I was honored to work with that company for years. And I was tasked with making all the graphics and all the merchandise and stuff like that. So, originally I'm from North Carolina, moved out here and struggled to find a job. And that was one of the first like major jobs that I had. And it just, it made that perfect trek for me to get to where I am today. During these Comic-Con events, I was meeting a lot of people in the industry. We would have panels with people from Walking Dead, Breaking Bad, having Bryan Cranston do like one of the most famous memes during that was incredible. And just being able to meet these people, Stan Lee, we had even Chadwick, from Black Panther at it before he was even Black Panther. It was the same year he was announcing that he was Black Panther. So for me to be around all these amazing people, I just took that energy within my own life and just started doing what I'm doing now.
And that's how you and I met, and we ended up coming down to the studio. And I think you showed me some pretty impressive things. And if I'm not mistaken, you gave my son and I a tour, right?
Yeah.
Did I bring my son? He must have been like 5 or 7. Shout out to James Matthew. He's now 20.
Is he really?
20.
Wow.
And he's doing great things at the university,
Okay.
And yeah, dude, we'll talk about it after
Congrats,
the
kid.
show. So yeah, he's doing a lot of cool stuff. He wants to get into the UFC, and he wants to.
Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be in. Yeah, he still wants to preserve his $1 billion face.
Is he beefed
but
up? Is he?
no. He wants to preserve the $1 billion face. He wants to be
Okay.
behind the camera, so to speak. He wants to be the guy that sort of orchestrates some of these fights, if you will, and sort of the logistical aspect of how you put this stuff together. Yeah, and he's worked hard at doing different things. So but back to my boy, you then left Nerd HQ at some point, and then tell us a little bit about it's hold on, is it Hoodlin?
Yeah. So let me give you the whole trek real quick because from Nerd HQ, it's so funny because we were in the same building as a pretty big animation studio. In all my life, I wanted to work in animation. So every day, I was going to Nerd HQ, but also being around all these other creative folks. So we'll be at the water cooler and talking with everybody. So when Nerd HQ was kind of coming to a short end, I was talking to folks saying like, "Hey, I would love to work with you guys." So within the same building, I just jumped from Nerd HQ over to a company called Pure Imagination Studios. So with Pure Imagination Studios, that's where a lot of the fun actually began for me, or continued, because I was working on all the projects I wanted to work on as a kid. So working on stuff for Looney Tunes, stuff for Batman, Spider-Man, Black Panther, and a lot of people from Nerd HQ, those actors, were involved with the studio. So it was like a full circle there. So I worked there for a while, and my resume just went up, my portfolio went up, and that was an amazing experience. And then Pure Imagination Studios is still doing some amazing stuff now. Right. But I did end up leaving in 2021, and started to pursue my own stuff. Right. So during that whole time of working for PI, I was actually running my own for-profit Bigfooters, which is a production company. Right. And through Bigfooters, me and my team, we were making our own content. So I made this hilarious puppet show called Ratchet Rachel.
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
Really cool, man.
Yeah.
Hats off to you, brother.
Thank you. And I mean, with that show, I was doing everything from writing, directing, puppeteering, voiceover, editing, and with the help of my right-hand man, Jose Hawkins, who was my behind-the-camera guy, we made something very amazing. So amazing that the company, Pure Imagination Studios, they were looking at it, and then it ended up getting picked up by a studio. Amazing, bro. And from there, it just it went up, and we had our eyes set on having it be a show for like Adult Swim or Comedy Central, but then the pandemic hit when we were really trying to make some strides there. But yeah, I left PI in 2021 with having Ratchet Rachel in my back pocket, which was cool.
Yeah, that kind of elevated you to another level with the Ratchet Rachel. I know a lot of people know you from that. I mean, because I know we talked about it and I watched it. It's really cool stuff.
Yeah,
on YouTube. You guys get a chance, and the idea that this is your baby. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And then now it's taken a life of its own.
Yeah.
And then it's being picked up by a great studio. I mean, how do you feel, dude? Like all your ducks are in a row.
Yeah.
Everything you've ever dreamt about as a child, it's unfolding right before your eyes. Like, what is that feeling? That's,
Yeah, the feeling for me is like the job isn't done type thing. It's like I'm getting there. I've accomplished this goal, but then once you accomplish that, you realize like, whoa, there's so much more that needs to be done. So even with Ratchet Rachel having the success that it had for the while, I was like, well, there's still so much untapped potential within myself.
Totally.
And not just within myself, within my friends around me.
100%.
I had friends that were trying to do short films and doing this. And I said, why don't I just tap in with them and help them pursue their stuff? Because when we work together, we climb together.
That's right.
So, I've helped produce award-winning short films with some friends, and grow in other areas too. So I'm always the type of person that's like,
Reinventing yourself every
not just reinventing, but adding on to it. You know, I have so
your
many
palette, right?
Yeah. So I want to be that person. I always wanted to be the person I am today as a kid, just to be able to say like, oh well, this guy is a mogul. You know, he has this connection, he has that connection. He's not just for himself; he's for the people too.
Right.
And that's what I'm still doing now.
And it leads you to El Sereno, which shout out to El Sereno, guys. It's a great little town. It's I would say it's well over 100 and plus 110 years. One of the older little cities.
Yeah.
Northeast, I would say, of the river, but fantastic nevertheless. Really close to Alhambra and Monterey Park and you know, City Terrace. Great little town. I went to school there. I told you I went to El Sereno Junior High School many years ago. And it's funny because 2 weeks ago when I had started my show, I talked about a certain caricature guy. This guy is just funny. Like you look at him and he's just hysterical. he's really good. Like he's a good actor. And he's Jimmy Kimmel's like sidekick. You know, Guillermo. So you know Guillermo went to El Sereno. He went to Wilson.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, dude. Well, I found out a lot about it when I befriended his cousin and him. He told me the whole story.
Wow.
He hailed from El Sereno Junior High area.
That's crazy.
El Sereno.
I mean, El Sereno, I would say there's nowhere in LA like El Sereno, just because based on the community.
It's great.
I was having a cookout the other day because I coach football now out there.
I know. You tell me all about it.
I'll tell you all about it. But the fact that I was able to go to the local butcher and he came up to me, he's like, "Hey, you were at practice with my son. You tackled my son, and you know, I'm mad at you," but he really wasn't. But the fact that, you know, I was buying the meat, I was short on cash. He said, "Just come back with the $7."
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then he also gave me avocados.
Really?
And it's like, there's nowhere else in LA that does that. You walk down the street and people actually know who you are. And it's not that fake LA facade behind it. I lived here in the Valley for 8 years, and I was very much a community person, trying to find somewhere to be a part of the community. And I just couldn't find it out here.
Good luck. Not in the Valley.
But I mean, at El Sereno, I can really provide the city, especially the youth, with mentorship and that extra stuff that they need on top of them already being an extra amazing community.
So why don't we stop out and talk about that in and of itself? You struck a chord with me, as you know. I not to talk about me because it's about you. And we're here to learn more about what you do with the community. The underprivileged. I grew up in a neighboring city in Lincoln Heights. And growing up in Lincoln Heights, there was a lot of poverty in and around. And, you know, there was the gang culture. And, you know, you had the rockers and then the new wavers and the hip hop kids and the, you know, the skaters, which I was a skater for many years growing up. I love skateboarding. But those were the outlets. And unfortunately, a lot more people got involved in the gang and the house parties and that kind of thing. It's so rewarding. That's it. Like looking back, when I go back into the community and I'm able to give one person, listen to what I'm going to say, one person, you guys, some feedback as to, look, this is your life, but this is what your life's going to look like. I would say let's start making these small changes and look at the small successes, what any little small success, and then, you know, hope to God that they continue on this path, because a lot of these people are not given the chance to grow. They're never patted in the back, which football, sports is where that comes in. When you pat somebody back, you can do it. And when they feel like they have come a long ways, even when it's like, oh my God, I did a touchdown, whether it's baseball, we hit it out of the park, we did good today. That helps build character in a person. It helps build a lot of things, of which a lot of small components that honestly nourish a person. And then, you know, you're able to get out of the neighborhood, go to college, you know, and be fortunate enough to have like things that you only dreamt about when you're growing up, because, you know, and that was one person that I've talked to, and I'm able to, you know, coerce almost into, hey man, you got to leave this kind of lifestyle. Look, there's more to life than just the neighborhood. The four walls, so to speak. There's a lot more, and you can do it. But to, you know, like a person that, like yourself, for example, we're going to get back to what you do. But it's so rewarding, man. I can't
100%.
imagine how you go to bed at night and how much of an impact you make in a child's life when they realize, oh my God, if he can do it, like you said, I can too.
Yeah.
And we've all had mentorship programs. I had a mentorship program of my mom. You know, my mom was like mentoring me and telling me, you know, there's more to this. The poverty is it can hold you down, but if you allow it to only, the way to get out is, you know, you read your books. And I was told I needed to read books day in, day out, day in, day out when I was a kid, you know, and that's what helped me. And outlets out there, you know, like going to the park and getting involved in any kind of activity and just getting involved on a voluntary basis it enriched my life. And it helps me to this day get involved and enrich the life of a child. So how does Brandon feel when you're able to help and touch the lives of many students in El Sereno?
Yeah, I mean, the bigger thing is that let's talk about the nonprofit real quick, because this will make it full circle.
Okay, full circle. Let's do it.
So you know, I during all the fun times of me working for Nerd HQ and Pure Imagination Studios, I was volunteering with an organization called Create Now. So you know, when I moved to LA, I was homeless. So I came out here, you know, I had me and my friends, we had our eyes set on a place in Santa Clarita, not realizing how far Santa Clarita was from the actual city. We had jobs set up and, you know, interviews at least set up. Came out here, one of the hottest summers, I think it was 2014. And the apartment wasn't ready, which made us, you know, we were on the streets and we had already paid the deposit and everything. And we just got gypped. So we were on the streets for about a week, 2 weeks, just trying to figure out what LA really was. And again, and being in Santa Clarita, driving all the way down and coming back and all this, it was bad. So during that time, I told myself like, hey, you know, once I make it big, I'm going to get back to the community.
Absolutely.
I'm going to find some way to get back. So with my artist passion, I was looking up organizations that dealt with art and with kids. And, you know, I found a handful of them and I reached out to all of them and every single one of them was like, no, we don't need you. Nah, you giving free time. We're at capacity, or you don't have the qualifications right now, blah, blah, blah. Or you know, they wouldn't reply back. So Create Now, the founder and the CEO at the time, her name was Jill Gurr. She gave me a call and was like, hey, I saw your application. I would love for you to come in. So at that time that I was talking to her, I had a place in Van Nuys that I was living at, an apartment. So I sat down. I took the train all the way down to the office, which is in downtown, and I sat with her for 2 hours, and we just talked. And from there, it was like, cool, Create Now is my home. So they could ask me for anything, and I would do it. So the first task they put me with was, hey, clean up our back storage closet. It's a mess. You know, you're big, strong. You know, I think it was 24 at the time. Go clean it up. So, you know, for about a week, I was doing that for free, you know. And then from there, they were like, oh, cool. We trust you. We see, you know, you have good energy. How about you teach a class for us? So I taught a class at an unhoused shelter with about 30 kids in there. And all these kids, they didn't have a home. They were living in the shelter. And I was teaching them how to paint murals. And I remember after the first class, one kid came up to me and was like, hey, where are you going? Like, you're not staying here? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going home. And at that point, I was like, whoa, I'm really saying I'm going home here in LA, where, you know, just months ago, I was on the streets. And now this kid that didn't put himself in this situation is going through that and having to see life through a different lens. So from there, I just stuck with Create Now. Multiple classes I taught. And then they asked me to be a part of their board. So I became a board member. From board member, I became board chair. And then during the pandemic, after I left Pure Imagination Studios, they were like, hey, how about you become CEO? And it's like, what? How is this all happening? What? It happened at it happened at a time that it was meant to, because the CEO, Jill, ended up passing away at the top of 2022, I believe.
Get out of town, really?
Yeah, 2022, 2023. I mean, time just flies right now. But the fact that I was able to be with her for almost eight, 9 years and learned from her. It was amazing. And also, I get to carry on her legacy, but while also bringing in my own, style and and touch.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I run a 27-year-old art nonprofit that's been here.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm taking it to higher levels.
Remarkable, bro.
And and El Sereno, I moved to El Sereno last year, and ever since I moved in, I was like, I got to get into the school. So I live right across the street from El Sereno middle school.
Right.
So when you say how old it is, there's that old
it was their
Farmdale. Yeah, that old building. And it's so funny. The teachers took me there for a tour, and I'm like, I swear there's like ghosts or something.
Chills?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I felt the same chills. Let me tell you what happened. I was going there. Clearly, this is junior high, so I'm dating myself. It's like the late 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm walking in, and I remember seeing this ginormous, big, kind of like Little House on the Prairie of sorts.
Yeah.
Kind of a building, and it gives me kind of like the like it's giving me these vibes of this has got to be like otherworldly, you know? And somebody tells me that it's the original 1800s Farmdale school. So look it up, guys, online.
Yeah.
Farmdale original school, and they're online. You can see like children walking in and out. I felt chills immediately when I went up because I was asked to go and help somebody remove some of the desks that they kind of placed in there. And not knowing that I was going to feel a brush of like cold, like a draft of whatever it was. And I felt it.
Yeah.
And so the thought, it could have just been like, just the thought of it,
Mm-hmm.
but I felt something. And I know what I felt.
Yeah. And I definitely felt it too. Yeah. And I mean, what just added to that experience was that they have pictures of like the kids that went there. And these kids in the photo, they were probably, I think, 10 to 13 or whatever.
Because that was an elementary school.
It was Farmdale.
Yeah,
so it probably even younger than that. But their uniforms for going to PE, they were dressed like they were going to church.
Right.
And they were like in these straight lines. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, woo. But no, that place is
haunted for sure.
It's haunted, but just the fact that that's still standing.
It's amazing.
And has such a presence.
Right.
It's amazing. I was able to ring the bell. So the fact that the kids were there ringing the bell, our teachers, was crazy. But when I moved in, I saw all the schools in the area, and then I saw, some kids. So long story short, I was going to all the community events I could. And me and my girlfriend were going, and then we went to something called the Kite Festival, which is up there on the hill next to Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot the name of the hill.
Prescott or Ascot Hill?
Ascot Hill. Yeah. So we were up there, and the Stallions had a booth. Mm-hmm. And their president and co-president were there, and they saw me. They were like, hey, come over here. Do you want to be a coach? And I'm like, you guys don't want me to coach. And my girlfriend was like, wait, you guys have a cheerleading squad too? And they were like, yeah. She was like, oh, sign me up. I want to be a cheerleader coach. So I was like, okay, cool. She's doing it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So I signed up to be a football coach.
So you got volunteered in by your girl.
I got volunteered in. Funny thing about it, she lasted for probably all of a month and a half, and I'm still in it. Like, I'm in it hard. So she was traveling a lot for work and just got overwhelmed. But just the football alone is just me in the community. But on top of that, when I first moved in, I saw the middle school, saw the elementary school, and I told myself I got to bring them programming somehow. So there was one day I was walking to practice, and there was a young man in handcuffs. He couldn't have been no older than 12, 13, in handcuffs right in front of the middle school. And he looked a little a little hung up a little bit. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, and I walked past him, and I almost make it to the field. I'm like, let me turn back around and just try to talk to this kid, So I went up, and while the police were talking to him, I'm like, I put one officer to the side. I'm like, what did he do? Like, and they were like, we can't tell you that, blah, blah, blah. And I said, can I talk to him afterwards? So after they let him go, I walked with him kind of close to down the street, and I'm trying to talk to him, and he was kind of disconnected, but I'm trying to like understand like hey, what do you like to do? I would love to support you in any way possible. And I was able to get out of him that he liked to do music.
Yeah.
So, for a kid to say music, that's something that my organization offers. So I wasn't able to get his number or anything like that, but I asked him, what school do you go to? He said, I go to this school right here, which was El Sereno Middle School. So I made it like one of my number one tasks to get into that middle school. So emailing all the teachers, going on LinkedIn, Facebook, just trying to find a connection. Nothing. Emailed the principal, nothing. So I asked my neighbors, I'm like, hey, did you have a daughter, kid, whoever? Did they go to the school? Yeah. Do you have any connections? Yeah, I'll get you in contact with so and so. So from there, I was able to get my foot in the door. And
Fantastic.
then I offered Farmdale about 500 free journals. So these were like highly produced journals from a group out in South Africa, and they were called Dreamcast journals.
Okay.
And with that, it was like a gift to the school to say like, hey, we're real, take us seriously, we want to provide. So they gave them out to all the school in Farmdale.
What a blessing.
And the teachers started using that as a class I guess assignment.
Or whatever.
Yeah. So every kid there at that school knows what a Dreamcast journal is, and they know that Create Now gave it to them. So from there, the middle school heard about it. It was like, what? All the kids got what? So they were like, how do we get part of that? So long story short, we are now in El Sereno Middle School, full-time throughout the year, also in Farmdale throughout the year. So we're always doing art programmings for those two schools.
There's also El Sereno Elementary School.
Elementary. So I just made connections with them a couple weeks ago where I talked to all their kids about what I do in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully that can lead us into doing programming at that school. But I want to get into Wilson next and just have that whole area on lockdown.
And then there's the continuation, El Pueblo, across the street from McDonald's. There's the little
there's a little one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a continuation. I think that the word is getting around.
No,
and
for
quite
sure.
frankly, I mean, I'm sure by the end of the year, you're probably going to be in Alhambra district also.
No, El Sereno's my home. I'm
Yeah.
not taking it. But no, I mean, Create Now is all over LA.
Yeah.
So we do stuff all the way down to Orange County, all the way up to here in the Valley.
Cool.
Wherever there's kids that need our support, we're there. If we have the funding, if we have the volunteers,
Create Now, guys.
100%.
Let's get involved.
Yeah. So I mean, just like me, I was telling somebody today, like, you with your volunteerism, with you coming in and supporting, that's how strong Create Now will be. And just looking at myself and other people on my team, they're in these spots of leadership because they showed that they wanted to be leaders. I showed that I wanted to be a leader when I had nothing out here, and now I run the whole company. So the sky's the limit with what you want to do. Right. We will never say no to a volunteer unless something comes up, red flag from Department of Justice or something. Sure. But we are always looking for volunteers. People don't have to be artists; they just have to have a passion for youth and giving back. Yeah. So
count me in. I'm in.
Yeah, I mean everybody should be in, but Jim will take you for sure.
I enjoy giving back. I've gotten involved with different things. I never with the nonprofit other than Safe Streets.
Okay.
I'm involved with Safe Streets. But haven't really, like I've talked to you in the past. I knew you were involved in different, you have your hand dipped in different stuff, and it's always the creative ways.
Yeah.
Which me as an actor, and obviously you and I have, we've dealt with different things in the industry, but like the nonprofit, and then like when I tell you what city, and you're like, of all cities in LA, it's like El Sereno. I'm like, dude, I went to junior high there.
Yep.
I lived 10 minutes away from there. It warmed my heart, and needless to say, I felt like, oh my gosh, like full circle. Like I need to get involved in this because I have so much I can share. I mean, like a lot of people might say, oh, well, you don't know the difference because they read you like you read a book, and they they kind of take it like, oh, this guy is coming on, but what can he possibly offer if he never lived my life?
Yeah.
And little do they know that I might have a lot more in common than they know, you know? So Brandon, I really, really enjoy, our conversations, when we have conversations about things, but I also want to, for you to impart more about um, you know, your nonprofit, but more in the way of I wanna touch up on the for profit. I
Yeah.
know you had nonprofit and a for profit.
hmm
So I'll talk a little bit more about the for profit.
Yeah. So the for profit is still the company Bigfooters, where
Bigfoot. Okay.
Bigfooters. So production company where me and my team, we just come up with ideas that we can pitch to
Okay.
bigger studios. Um, Ratchet Rachel was like one of our first like major projects that showed us like the potential.
The brainchild of Mr. Brandon.
Yeah, the brainchild, the back voice for me too, because I do voice her.
Man,
So
what can't you not do, dude? Like,
don't test me. We'll find out. But yeah, from when we weren't able to film Ratchet Rachel stuff, I pulled a character from that universe called the Hoodlums,
Yeah.
and from the Hoodlums are these small sock puppets that are basically Rachel's minions. Um, and During the pandemic, I just started drawing these characters. Yeah, there we go. If you guys can see that.
Yeah.
But I started drawing these characters, and I think he even went to my first art show.
I went to your first art show on
Yeah.
down on Pico.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
So
rad.
so yeah, that first art show showed me kind of like in a midlife crisis of what I was doing during the pandemic, and I ended up painting over 101 pieces of these characters on canvases, and some of
Yeah.
these canvases were small, a lot of them were huge. But the fact that there was 118 pieces just for me solo
Yeah.
in that show was pretty dope.
Yeah.
And I mean, the bigger part was that it showed me how invested people were in it, because more than half of the show sold, and
Yeah.
that's also on not even mentioning the merchandise that was sold on top of that as well. So from there, we've really been growing this brand called Hoodlum Mania, which is part of the Ratchet Rachel universe,
Woodland Mania.
and that right there is a huge connection for me. Not just with the adults, but also with the kids, because these are colorful characters. They're bright, vibrant, and every time I do something within a school through Create Now, I'm always circling back saying like, hey, take a look at this sticker. I made this,
Yeah.
or I made
Right.
this cartoon.
Right.
This is what you could do in the future.
Yeah, just the idea that
It's an idea
like
that I
that
came
they're
with.
on here, bro. Like,
Yeah.
like I made this kind of thing.
Exactly.
Like, that's pretty rad.
And I mean, and these kids, they look at me. First off, they think I'm a basketball player because, like you
Right.
said, I'm 6'8",
Or the mayor of Chicago, right?
yeah, or the mayor of Chicago. I got him beat on sides too.
Yeah, I think you did.
But they're like, you're a basketball player, and I need youth and also adults to understand, like, don't put a person in a box.
No.
Don't judge a book by its
Right.
cover, because I'm far greater than a basketball player. Not saying that I'm not athletic or anything. I'm definitely athletic.
Yeah.
But that's not my passion. My
Right.
passion is art. My passion is creating and connecting. And the fact that I'm able to do this with the Hoodlums is amazing. And even with that first art show, I gave back. So I gave a percentage of that art show back to Create Now for them to do programming with that money.
Wow.
And not even just programming, but people don't realize, like, there's operational funding that needs to be done. A lot of nonprofits don't have operating funds to pay for their staff or pay for materials. So I was able to give a portion back of the show to
And you're
them.
also teaching. I think you're teaching, like, as you're talking and you're speaking to many viewership and listenership. People are picking up also entrepreneurship skills.
Yeah.
Because these skills can pretty much tell anyone, hey, you know what? If you can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah.
And you learn, like, kind of like the logistics of how to create something from the ground up, which is not easy. It's easier
not
in theory than it is in practice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely at that point now in my life to where if I can think it, cool, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
But when I was younger and coming up with these ideas, I had to learn how to do it,
Yeah.
and it was so hard then. But
what would you say are some of your struggles, like, when we start? I mean, for those listening and watching and intently, okay. And I hope you guys are sharing this video, man, because you could far exceed and bypass a lot of, like, homes if we would just share some of the videos that we're watching at LA, talk radio.
Yeah.
Okay, with Almost Famous. I mean, obviously, you can learn a lot more, and by sharing, more people can get blessed, and it could reach more audiences that way. So go back to that.
Yeah. So I mean, the struggle of starting off. I'll drop a few
Nuggets,
drools, whatever we call it.
Jewels, yeah.
It's the fact of not knowing and experience. Experience is key for doing whatever, and people don't realize, like, sometimes that experience is you not getting paid for it. Going through those struggles on somebody else's dime instead of your own dime.
Right.
Me working for Nerd HQ, I was learning at that time how to make merchandise, how to market.
Wow.
And that was on somebody else's dime. Even before that, we didn't talk about this, but I lived in Europe for 3 years. So I lived in Poland and I lived in London. And out there, it was straight out of college.
Right.
I wasn't getting paid nearly as much as what I should have been. But it was more of the experience. So living out there, learning how to market, how to talk to people, how to be out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to stay within their comfort zone. For me,
to this nugget.
Yeah, for me to be across the world around people that don't even look like me, and still be successful out there, that right there alone, it will show a person what they're capable of. Me coming out here, not having a place to live, or anything, that also showed me how strong I was, because I had friends that went to my high school that were also living out here. They had a beautiful apartment down out in Pasadena, right above, I think the Gold Line is out there.
Oh yeah.
So it was right there. So they were dropping, a couple grand.
Yeah. Right by the Colorado.
Yeah.
By the Old Town.
Yeah. So I mean, they were out here. They had money, and they didn't have a job.
Right.
So as they started to lose money, they were like, "Oh, well, we got to leave. We can't live out here without money."
Right.
But the fact that me and my friends, we were still staying out here because we were ready to hustle. We were ready to get down and dirty.
So it's that, like, aspiration for more. It's aspiring for more.
It's
being
the drive.
Hungry. The drive.
It's not even that. But if you are meant to do something, you're going to do it.
Right. True.
If you're saying
it kind of pulls you in that direction.
Yeah. If you're saying, "Oh, it's too hard. Oh, I don't know," then that means it's not for you.
Right.
You got to let it go. There's no reason for you to beat that horse if deep down inside you don't feel it.
Ain't that the truth?
But every day, like for me, I wake up. What can I do creatively?
Right.
How do I work my muscle to grow?
Yeah.
So it's just like going to the gym.
Right.
I do drawings every day. I do something every day just so I get better in that.
You're a hell of an artist, dude.
I'm a good artist. I'm super creative. And to tell you the truth, I don't know where I got that from, but it's a blessing.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because my football coach in high school said, it's a sin not to use your God-given gifts. Yeah. And for me, he was talking about my height.
Yeah.
But he didn't really realize I was a far better artist than.
That's true, because like I learned how to play guitar when I was in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
By watching somebody else play, and I learned, like, the first song I learned how to play was the "Sweet Child of Mine" riff. And I was watching Slash over and over. I started with the very first deal, first key, and it's like, okay, dude. I don't even know how it goes right now because I'm on the spot. I'm thinking like Metallica now.
Yeah.
But all the bars and whatnot, it started because, like, I was doing so many other things before, and I always had. Well, my dad's a musician, but not a discovered musician by any stretch of the imagination. But I always had that inclination of, like, musically. I knew how I could write songs. I can write songs. Because I always knew that, like, I would be singing a song. You go to school because you probably had the same thing, and everyone has a song in their head.
Yeah.
Well, I start creating bars and just riff. Like, I see a girl, like, this thing, and you twirl your hair, but it might be unfair. You hadn't, baby, you there.
Yeah.
And you come up with things and raps,
Yeah.
and that's how song is, all poetry. Music's all poetry.
Yeah. But that's also a blessing too,
right?
Because some people. It's so funny. People look at what I do and they're like, how are you able to do that? I do that a lot for, rappers or actors. Like, how are they able to do this? And that's a talent.
Acting is a talent.
It's a talent. Another thing is like, not letting people tell you that what you are passionate about or what you want to do is stupid or unrealistic. There are so many people that told me growing up that you won't get a job as an artist.
Totally.
You can't.
100%.
And it's so funny because those people that told me that don't even know artists.
Yeah.
So how are you going to tell me that I can't do something when you don't even know what it takes yourself?
Right.
So, I mean, my dad, he loves me to death and everything, but he was, I remember like, going back to school and we're getting that list of items that you got to buy for school. He's going through it, folder, binder, coloring pencils, crayons. You don't need this.
Right.
Like, but deep down inside, like I was super passionate about the arts.
Yeah.
So, never tell a person that they can't do something that you don't truly fully understand.
Right.
And if you are telling them, you should never tell a person they shouldn't do anything. If you're going to give them advice,
like constructive advice or whatever,
constructive, just don't leave it like no.
Right.
Tell them like, oh, maybe you should think about it because I know X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But never tell a person like, no, don't.
Because everyone has their own journey at the end of the day.
Exactly. Exactly.
I believe that wholeheartedly. I mean, you and I were in sync in so many ways. Because as artists, every day you're always gonna like hit a wall from time to time, and the challenge in and of itself, the journey, getting to the next level, like holy cow, and then you get to that point and you realize you kind of surprise yourself. How did I even get here?
Yeah.
And you get there. I mean, it's all about the journey. Most people get to the top and people go, oh my God, they're at the top, but they don't realize that the journey, the learning, the bumps, the bruises and the scrapes and, the trials and tribulations are what make you later as the artist that you are, otherwise none of that, without any of that. I mean, if it's just if you're grandfathered into something, you're just given by sheer like, oh, you're related to somebody or whatnot. It's kind of like getting clout when you shoot, like you do a TikTok and you get famous.
Yeah.
But then nobody knows what to do with that fame. It's an overnight thing.
Exactly.
It dies.
Yeah.
But the people that with, small increments of like hard work, hard toil, and, blood, sweat, and tears, so to speak, you get to the next level and then you finally make it. You don't realize the journey of an artist. Like with musicians, that dude made it overnight. Machine Gun Kelly made it overnight. Dude, you watch the documentary of all these cats. They've been around for a long time.
Yep.
And they've been told they've gone through so much crap.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't believe in them. A lot of people think you're a joke. You're not going to make it. The Steve Martin documentary is a great one too. The stand-up comedian. He wasn't funny.
Yeah.
And suddenly, like Steve Martin, you're like, wait a minute, the Three Amigos guy.
Yep.
I mean, he was just hilarious, like hysterical.
My favorite movie of his is the Jerk.
The Jerk.
Yeah.
Oh my God, The Jerk.
Yeah.
But I'm just using those as examples. And I think that, my God, dude, I'm like really happy and you're so gracious to be here. And the idea that you can make it out tonight, it means a lot to me because you inspired so many. And for me to just be able to help welcome you to some of the homes through LA Talk Radio, through Almost Famous.
Yep.
I think I've done my homework and I've done my deed for the day as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you for that. If people ever come in contact with a person doing good, elevate them, talk about them.
Edify them, huh?
Yeah, I mean, because you never know who else in your community or in your network might need that person as well.
Right.
So I always connect good people with other good people if possible. So I do thank you for allowing me to use your platform to elevate.
Speaking of platforms, where can people chase you down, find you, track you down?
Oh man,
social media handles,
everything,
huh?
So first off, we have Bigfooters.co. That's the website. So that's BIGFOOTERS.co. So that's the for-profit. The nonprofit Create Now is createnow.org. If you guys just send an email there, it will go to myself or somebody on the team that will get in contact with us. Let's see, what else do we have? I mean, we have Instagram. If you want to follow Hoodland Mania on Instagram, we're there. if you want to follow myself, my personal page, it's Tall, TALLQUE, so Tall Q. But yeah, I mean, social media is all over the place these days, right?
And finally, I was able to hold him down because he like everybody pulls him every which way. He's like the very elusive cat. You can never really hold him down. So I was able to have you, and I feel pretty blessed and lucky and beyond grateful for you to be here today.
Yeah.
This is your house. This is your home.
Cool.
You ever feel like you want to stop by? I was okay. So my buddy and I'm a good friend, my James Walsh, actor. We had Jim and James Morning Podcast, and I had a co-host, and it's fantastic because you bounce off of each other and whatnot. But I like this because I started just myself. I started with Juicy Divas Confessions of a Limo Driver, all by myself, and Seth being the co-producer, my co-pilot. But it was quite an odyssey. And real quick, because we're almost out of time. But I just wanted to say that it was fantastic to where we got to, and then I felt like I want to be challenged a little more. So the Jim and James Morning Podcast, it was good. But it's always nice when I'm able to have my own platform, like my own show, because then I can invite you back.
Exactly.
And, you can have the third guy in, I know some of the shows have like 4 or 5 guys, and it's all great and dandy. But I think it's great when you have a space that you and I can share, so to speak, only 2 people, then more can get squeezed out of the lemon, so to speak.
Hey, we're here.
Yeah. So we definitely got a lot out of Mr. Johnson, Dean. What did I say? Oh, Brandon Dean Johnson.
That's the name.
I got you backwards. and I just wanted to say we're sending tributes and condolences to the Jerry West family. He just passed away, Jerry West.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was Jerry West embodied basketball, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. Guys, don't forget to tune in. This is your show, Almost Famous, every Wednesday night. And thanks for hanging in there last week because I was running a cold, a nasty cold, hacking cough, whooping cough. I thought, for real, man, I got really like a bad case of COVID.
Yeah.
And then I was telling my wife, like, dude, she gave me the COVID exam. It's like, no, I didn't have anything. And then I said, wow, what in the world do I have? So I went up to Kaiser Urgent Care twice, not once. And then I got pink eye.
Oh, no.
So if
you go going through it.
Basically. Matters couldn't get any worse. I ended up with pink eye. But I'm beyond blessed and thankful and grateful. I don't know if we're going beyond the time, Sam. I hope I still have time to just say thank you, viewership. Please share this information. It's a well of knowledge, as you can tell. Follow my man and follow me, Jim. Yours truly, Jim Francis Mesa. You could Google me. You could Google him. Both of us have done a couple of things out there who will probably pop up on Google. But at any rate, I want to thank all of you guys and keep tuning in every Wednesday. And otherwise, have a blessed rest of your night. Thank you, and God bless you.
You're listening to Almost Famous with Jim Francis Mesa, only on LA Talk Radio.